Hello and welcome to mine, Hugh Macaulay's, Alfredo Lopez's and Paddy Muleba's podcast. Today we're sat here with Parker Thibault, who's a soccer player at CBC. He's been at CBC for a couple of years now, and we're going to be talking in great detail about how soccer in America has gotten to where it is and the players that have impacted it. And along with me and Alfredo, we're going to be talking about the players from our country that have helped grow the game in our respective countries. So, Parker, let's just start off with a quick one. Who's your favourite American soccer player of all time?
All right, guys. My favorite American soccer player of all time is going to have to be the GOAT, Clint Dempsey. He was just an American icon, scored a lot of iconic goals. Just a great player. His mentality, like the way that he, took the pitch every time, just wanted to put 5 goals past the opposition, is just something that has been really inspiring for our generation.
Mm-hmm.
So
may I ask you that quickly? Which version of Clint Dempsey was your favourite? So you've got Premier League, and then Premier League we're going to split it 3 ways because he played at Everton, he played at Tottenham, and he played at Fulham. Okay, men's national team for the USA, or Seattle Sounders, or even LA Galaxy. Do you know
he also has like different primes in USA teams, so
yeah,
you might have to separate it.
Yeah, go on.
I mean, I didn't really watch a lot of MLS, so I don't know much about Clint Dempsey in the MLS. But I do know that he was a goal-scoring machine in the MLS. The league wasn't what it is now. It used to be like the 20th best league in the world, and now it's considered top 10. So the competition's a little bit better now. So I don't want to say that he played a bunch of bums, but he could have. So I'm going to have to say probably national team Clint Dempsey.
Okay.
I think players overperform in our national team kit rather than with their club. So, he was at Fulham for a little bit. I don't think his numbers were very good, but I do know for the United States men's national team, he put up a ton of goals. He was just a monster for us.
Is there any tournament that you remember that he was like just really good for you? Like you just remember like it just pops out of your
Or a
mind right now?
performance, like a
Yeah,
specific
so
game.
it was the 2014 World Cup, and we had scored one of the fastest goals in World Cup history against Ghana, and I think that just like solidified him as like one of our greatest finishers of all time.
See, Clint Dempsey scored a goal, you might remember it, in 2010 in South Africa. He scored a goal against my England team, and Robert Green basically put it in the net, right? My next question to you is, Parker Thibault, how much of your game has been moulded by Clint Dempsey, or you can add another American soccer player that maybe has moulded your game a little bit more?
I mean, I guess I'll just take the mentality part from Clint Dempsey. He just always wanted to prove himself against any opposition. Like, he was always up for the challenge, always up for the game. So I think he just, once he stepped out of the locker room, his heart and his mind was just set on like putting in 110% effort. And I think that that's something that I've kind of done since I was very little. Is I'd always come off the pitch drenched in sweat, exhausted, but I knew that I laid it all out there, and so regardless of the scoreline, I know that I put the best effort I possibly could. As far as midfielders, I'd like to say Bradley, but I know that he's not really the player that I was or am.
For the record, tell the people listening what type of player you are.
All right, so there's been a lot of debate about this amongst the teams. Growing up, I used to be that deep line playmaker like Michael Bradley. But as I've kind of, gotten older, I've been a little bit more of the engine, right? I can't last as long anymore, but I used to be able to. But I like to get forward, get into the opponent's box, find the back of the net, hopefully for the first time in a CBC kit soon.
Playing through the lines,
Yeah.
you're very good at that.
Have you never scored for CBC?
I've never scored for CBC.
You did last year.
I mean, it was a reserve game, and it was a penalty.
well,
we don't
so I
Okay,
don't
we're not
think
gonna
we can
count
count that. So I got a bunch of assists, and by a bunch I mean 2.
You've assisted
Two
me.
and a half.
You've assisted me.
Yeah.
I have a Parker Tebow assist on my resume.
I got a assist, but just from your cousin, not from you.
The what?
I got an assist from Mikey.
Oh,
for you.
yeah.
Mikey's giving you an assist.
Yeah.
What game?
It was this game we were like 9-0, and I think you got injured. It was done. One of you two got
It was Mission.
pulled his hamstring.
Mission.
We played Mission last year.
Yeah,
It
we
was
played
then
Mission
against
last year.
them.
So another question I've got for you is
Banger, by the
so
way.
an English player that's very popular, David Beckham.
David Beckham.
Okay.
Yes.
What impact did David Beckham have on you, and necessarily how did David Beckham help get soccer to where it is? Because I don't personally believe that English people like myself, like Joseph McElhinney and Jack McNamara, who are nearby with me right now, I don't believe that they come to this country if it wasn't for the sacrifices and the sort of intelligence that David Beckham brought to America. So what would you think about that one?
We'll kind of take this into 2 pieces.
Okay.
The first one was, I think, just like him coming over to America, such a huge thing for MLS and American soccer. Like, we just had one of the most influential midfielders come out of, he played in England, Italy, France. So, like, this is a really well-known guy, and he came over to the United States, and I think it kind of sparked interest from other, professional football teams, and I know that he's really smart when it comes to the tier system in England, right? Like all of the professional academies with the Premier League teams, the Championship teams, just all English football, all professional sports teams in their academies. So I think bringing that to the United States and implementing USL academies, MLS academies, it kind of helped, pave the way, because the jump from recreational football and those academy teams were so big. So I think it created a natural tier system. Nowadays we got MLS Next. Next Level is a different one. All these residence academies popping up.
So, I kind of think from my point of view, and I'm sure Alfredo can back me up here, I believe that America, where it has made some very significant bounces to sort of get to where it is today, it still isn't particularly 100% there. What do you believe, as an American, someone who's played the game all your life, someone who's played the game at every level you've been able to other than professional, what is there for you, in your opinion, left for the American Soccer Federation to sort of change it and make it a little bit more of a competitive sport in this country? Because at the moment, it's probably the 3rd biggest sport in the US. How do we make that higher?
Yeah, I think it's really challenging, because the easy answer would just be to say it's pay to play here. The more you pay, the higher up you could potentially play. If you don't quite have the money, then you just have to play locally and recreationally. But the more money you have and the more money you're willing to spend on your kids, or your parents are willing to spend on you, kind of determines the level of football you can end up at. But like the distance in America between all the little states and all the counties and all the cities, like it's really challenging to get to hotspots. Sometimes you're traveling 5 hours. I know from me, I'm from a rural town in Arizona, so we would travel 2 days a week to go play in Tucson. So it's about an hour and 30 minutes away, and sometimes we had to travel to Phoenix and sometimes Flagstaff, which is 3 or 5 hours away. And it's just really spread out here, so it's hard. Like, you have to be able to pay for the travel, staying in hotel rooms, the gas, the car wear and tear, the food on the road. So I would say, helping offset the cost by getting some big investors could potentially help. We have all these NBA athletes and NFL athletes that go and are investors and part owners of European clubs, and they're so wealthy and big, but they don't ever put any into the MLS, or when they do, it's very minimal compared to what they do to those European clubs.
I think that's really interesting, because Obviously, the number one sort of businessman in American soccer at the moment is David Beckham, who's an English person. And then you've got people like Tom Brady, who's just bought Birmingham.
Yep.
You've got JJ Watt, who's
Yep.
just bought a stake in Burnley. My football team back home, Liverpool's owned by Fenway Sports Group, who own the Red Sox. You've got Stan Kroenke, who owned the Rams, who owns Arsenal. I actually didn't understand how much American money is actually in European football clubs, but not necessarily in American football clubs. That was a very interesting point. Our last couple of questions, really, I'm sure Alfredo's got one or two, but a little bit funny. What was your favourite soccer boot of all time? Oof. Because this is a big question. I
think favorite boot will be like kind of not fair. So
Because-
let's make a top 3.
Okay, because just for the record, people might not know this, but Parker Thibault has an amazing selection of soccer boots or soccer cleats. Usually he has better than all the European lads. Every semester there's a different type of boot that he brings. He's got drip for days. So Parker, name me your top 3 football boots and describe them.
All right, so I'll start with 3. So 3 was the very first top-end football boot that I got. It was an old pair of F50s. It was the year right before they discontinued the My Adidas chip.
Yeah, the little chip on it.
Winning
Yeah.
Yeah, and I got them on soccer.com, and they were the coral, like the orange color, and the blue F50s with the synthetic
Suarez wore them.
Yeah. Synthetic leather, not the real leather. So, those were probably number 3, like most memorable. The second one is going to be very American of me, but it was a pair of Tiempo Legend 7s. They were black and green, and I kicked my very first field goal in them. So that's pretty special for me. And then
It's pretty common to like some kickers at football use like tiempos or mercurials.
Yeah. I
I've seen
don't
some
know.
of those.
I think it was just like the comfort. Like the mercurials were just too thin while I was kicking, so I used the
Some people like
leather
the
football.
content.
Yeah. No. All right. So my all-time favorite football boot is probably gonna have to be. Oh gosh, this is so challenging. I would say that it was the black Tiempos that I had last year.
With the blue tick.
Yeah.
They're
liked
very new
those.
school though. Like I'm gonna throw one out there.
Okay.
My favourite boot of all time, and when they first came out, like the hype around this boot, because it was something that we'd never seen before, and it was the original OG Magista Operas in the
love
2014
those.
one.
Yeah.
I had them
With the yellow.
Yeah, the yellow.
Yeah.
Right before the World Cup.
Well, I had them until
How about
last
the
year.
videos on YouTube?
Oh, the videos
Oh
were
my
boss.
God.
Do you remember the Adidas black and white ones as well? Like that World Cup.
Which ones?
Remember the black and white pack?
It looked like the cheetah pattern.
It was like
yeah.
checkers.
Yeah.
Puma sold the bag that year because they had the one
was pink
one
or
pink
blue,
and one was
yeah.
blue, which was awful.
It was
They
terrible.
were snide.
But the other cleats were unreal.
Now-
Those World Cup cleats.
Question real quick. How do you feel now that I know you like tiempos and I love them, tiempos too? I haven't tried them on just because I just denied the fact that they're not leather anymore.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that synthetic leather? And if you like it or not, or do you just prefer than the natural leather?
So I've only ever worn one other like natural leather football boot, and it was the Tiempos that I played high school football in. So I will say that I'm not like a super big leather connoisseur, so I don't know the difference. I like these Tiempos. I think that they're very soft, and they fit my foot pretty decent. So that's kind of what I've gotten to now is what fits my foot the best, and I think those are very neutral. So I don't know. I don't really mind the synthetic. I think it's still good. I think that they just probably could have used a different name, like the CTR 360s.
Oof, those were
They were
nice.
old school then.
They were nice.
They were 2012 Euros, I believe.
It was. I'm not quite sure. You got me off.
It was
the
like
knowledge.
2012.
Yeah, well, I'm also a Tiempo wearer, and I
Okay.
think the reason why I like the Tiempo as much is because there's no blisters in them.
Yeah,
No.
Ever.
that's true.
They're the comfiest boot you can wear. The touch feels dead close to his foot, but not necessarily feeling like the dead light. They have the right sort of weight behind them, and they have
What they have worked on is like whenever like the boot gets wet, it doesn't feel that heavy.
No, it doesn't.
In comparison with other leather boots.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I feel like that's where we're going to end it. I'd like to say big thank you to Parker Tebow.
Yes.
I'd like to say big thank you to Alfredo Lopez, who's my co-star. I'd like to say a big thank you to Paddy Muriba, who is behind us, just sort of giving the questions, sort of he prepared everything else. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed listening.